That's what I did when I was a student. I worked in the office of the architect that was responsible for this competition, or for this contribution to the competition. And later I was responsible for the development of this sketch, of this idea. This was in the 90s, and it is a former airfield. It is the, let's say, the former airport of Vienna. Not in use since, let's say, the end of the Second World War. Empty? Not really. It was the landing stripes, there were car races, training places for drivers, things like that. Agricultural use for the green. On both sides, single family houses. Informally built after the Second World War, but meanwhile formalized and very strong in their political power to fight against constructions, even these kind of unclear constructions in the middle of them. So anyway, it was not completed because the public transport connection, the train station, could not be built. There was a conflict of interests between the train company and the city of Vienna. A couple of years later, there was another competition. My boss, the architect that has been responsible for the project before, was now in the jury. And the winning project looks like this. You remember the Ringstraße, this boulevard in the historic center of Vienna. Isn't there a similarity? Anyway, the master plan for this new development shows some very interesting aspects. One of them is the subway. The subway goes right into the heart of this new development. This has not been planned when we worked on this project in the 90s. But the city understood meanwhile that it's very important to provide a good public transport connection between a new development, a kind of satellite city, and the city itself. The second aspect, there is a green kind of distance between the existing neighborhoods on both sides and the new area that is developing here. The third one is there is a huge car part manufacturing industry that might not survive forever. And there is a small lake in the heart of it that is name-giving and image building for the neighborhood. That's why it's called Seestadt, that means kind of lake city in Aspern. Aspern is the part of Vienna. It's the city, not the city, the village, the name of the village that is close by this development. So this is the idea how it should look like when it's done. Of course, this is a very traditional image of a city. But the architects within these kind of fields, within these kind of parcels, they have very different ideas and they create very different structures to what the architect Trovat proposed in his master plan. The second aspect, which is very interesting in this neighborhood, beside the public transport system, is how to deal with the public space. You all know how shopping malls work. There is an owner, there is a management, they allow some companies to open a shop, they deny others, and they try to manage a mix of offers so that you can get different things in a shopping mall. Shoes and bags and clothes and flowers and a coffee and so on. A similar system was implemented here. There are streets that are intended to be commercial. There are other streets that are used for transportation. There are even others that are more for slow pedestrian kind of recreational, or let's say they provide more a quality of stay, a quality of an environment where you can have rest, where you can enjoy the open space. And of course, the recreational center with the lake. But these commercial streets, they have a management. And this management is responsible for the distribution of different shops, different branches in this neighborhood. At the moment, it's not too much built of this development. As you see, it's just 10 years since they started. But there is an image how it should look like. That's the idea of the architect. You see, it's a balloon. So that means it's from an architect. And this is the reality. Okay, it's a bit higher, it's a bit denser. This is caused by the enormous pressure at the moment in Vienna. As I told you, it's a growing city, a rapidly growing city, by the pressure on the housing market. And it's absolutely necessary to provide as many apartments, especially subsidized apartments, as possible in Vienna nowadays. Of course, it's a bit cloudy here, not so sunny, the trees are small, so it will look different after a couple of years. As I told you, urbanism needs time. Time is a very essential thing. And I also told you that the architects do not necessarily follow this traditional romantic idea of a city with a ring and this kind of, let's say, replica of what has been already built in Vienna. There are projects that work with wood. Wood is not very usual at the moment in European housing, but it becomes more and more a material that we start using. They work with different structures, not a block, but with kind of neighborhood, green space, even elevated, so it's not disturbed by the streets around. But there are also some traditional projects that are kind of balcony and a white facade, modernistic somehow. So there are very different qualities in the detail, or let's say in the architecture of this urban development. As you can see, it's a recent satellite. This is what is built up today. This is the lake that's name giving for the Seestadt. Here you already can imagine the ring, the subway line you can see, the factory in the south, and the neighbors to whom the development keeps a kind of safety distance for undisturbed growth inside this former airfield. Thank you very much for your attention.